Am I the butthole for not letting my stepmom be buried with my dad? When I, 24 male, was very young, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. He survived, but it was very close, and my mom bought a 3-person burial site in our local cemetery just in case he died, so that one day we could be buried together. About 5 years after his cancer scare, my mom died in an accident at work. Pretty much immediately after, my stepmom came into the picture. It was pretty clear from the get-go that she was only interested in dad because of mom life insurance plus the accidental death payout. She had 2 kids from prior marriages, dad was her third. My dad was devastated from losing mom, and I think he just saw my stepmom as an easy person to comfort him. I absolutely do not blame his for the crap she put me through. My preteen and teen years sucked because of her. I was continuously bullied by her kids and her, and I wasn't allowed to join sports teams or socialize after school. If I wasn't studying, then I was cleaning, and if I protested, then I would go without meals. My dad died about 8 years after mom did, and my stepmom immediately kicked me out. I was only 15 at the time. There was a huge fight over my dad's assets because he left almost everything to me. Long story short, she has just died. Her children have approached me and asked that she be buried next to dad and mom. I have refused. They're now lambasting me all over SM and to mutual friends, accusing me of being mean and that she was dad's wife and should be buried next to him. Am I the butthole here? NTA. She made it clear by kicking you out as a child that you are not her family. Why should she be buried next to yours? Also, the people asking are the stepmom's kids who were crafty to op. They don't get to waltz into op's life after all that and issue ultimatums. They can F right off. Not the butthole. Y'all aren't ready for this comment. Although may be true, that is beside the point. Yeah, it is. Probably can't afford to bury her, and this is the cheapest route because the plot is paid for already. I buried my cat in the garden for free. That's more than this woman deserves. They should consider that. Guess what? You guys will never believe it. I found out that it only costs $250 to bury a cat. So I figured, why don't I just put my stepmonster into a large cat suit, Jules, St. Elmo's fire. This is totally what I was thinking. Funerals and burials are so much more expensive than what people expect. If it was your dad's wishes, then he would have purchased another plot before he passed on. Edited to add, a quick, you think it's okay for them to demand the burial plot my late mother and father purchased for me? Ought to shut this down with your actual friends. Not that you should need to explain, but people are lousy at dealing with grief and likely to side with the grievers, no matter how buttholy they are. Any mutual friends that continue to side against you after that clarification are not mutual friends. Agree with this, burials are expensive. This was my first thought as well. Exactly what I thought. At a certain point, they should be able to form their own opinions and think critically about what original post did to deserve such treatment. Maybe not initially their fault, but they were in the wrong for continuing it. I'd say around 21 is the cutoff point where the actions of someone can no longer be justified by their parents raised them to believe or do that. At that age, you should have enough self-awareness and a good enough moral compass that you should see through the lies of your parents. Especially if you no longer live with them. We don't know how old the stepmother's kids are, but we can assume. Edit, spelling. What is the age for seeing through the lies of the Jedi? Happened for me right on my birthday. I agree with this. It takes dedicated effort to re-examine those biases. Many choose not to, but it is the choice to change or not which is telling. My mother raised me to hate my dad. At 19 I began to have an unmoderated relationship with him and started forming my own opinion. Then by 21 I had re-examined a whole bunch of stuff that I had been conditioned to believe. As someone who has been in Op's position growing up, after a certain point, that really doesn't matter. From the ages of 7 to 15, they were treated badly by their family. There's a line somewhere. The kids must have realized at some point that it wasn't okay. They're not kids anymore, they're grown-ass adults, more than old enough to know better and to have changed, if they wanted to. Their mother raised them and probably told them to pick on original posts. She didn't have to tell them. All she had to do is allow it. Left to their own devices, children will escalate bullying all by themselves. All they need is to know that they won't be punished. Lord of the Flies wasn't far off the mark. Nope. At a certain age, you should know right from wrong. My mom wasn't perfect and I could spot her bullcrap from a mile away by the time I was 12. I love her to death, but she had us real young, so it just is what it is. She has 2 other husbands she can be buried next to whom each kid has a connection as the father. Pick one of those. Not the butthole. Yup. You know they just want the free burial plot, since their mom apparently didn't take care of her own funeral arrangements when she was alive. NTA, and I hope you block their numbers and emails, op. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for the award, kind Redditor. It's this. Funeral plots are expensive, and her kids just see a free one they don't have to pay for. This is it. That plot is worth a couple grand, at least. My sibs and I were all under 30 when my self-absorbed father passed away. In order to bury him, my brother had to take out a loan. We all paid back 1/3 of the loan. We didn't stick him for all of it, we were just kids and felt the pressure. Of course you must take on debt for this. He was your father. No, we didn't have to do crap. If someone asked me to pay for my father's funeral, all I could say is, but I didn't really like him. My dad left his mom in the county morgue. He had his reasons, but he told me before he died to do the same to him, because he would be dead and wouldn't care. Practical man. Like, don't get me wrong, if I was dead I probably wouldn't care, but I have had it out with my mother. Cremation is the cheapest thing if you have to pay for it. I do not want to be buried because it's expensive, and you might as well go out to your yard, dig a hole, throw about 5K in it, light it on fire, cause you aren't getting that back, bury the ashes. She's really rude and insists she has to be able to go see me. If we're honest, I wouldn't want her to visit, I'd be pissed. Your ashes can still go in a mausoleum. My grandparents were married for something like 65 or 70 years, and now their urns sit together in perpetuity. I know my parents want to be cremated when they die, but they did research, and apparently because they're Catholic their ashes have to be buried in a plot for it to be, well, I'd say kosher, but that's not exactly Catholic either. So no matter what, my siblings and I are buying plots of land in the next 10 to 30 years. I get why other people do it completely. Personally believe you should do whatever it is that the individual would have wanted. By my mom and I went to put flowers at my uncle's grave about 2 years ago. On the way home I told her I didn't want to be Boris, and she said, I'm not doing that cause then I couldn't come visit you. Like, what the hell? I understand religious reason and all that, but I was a cheap person in life, therefore I want to be cheap in death. Make sure to shop around. Where my aunt's cremations are buried, you can put 2 cremations or 1 casket in 1 plot. They may be able to share 1 plot. Also, that spot was technically bought by Op's mom for their family, i.e. dad, mom and Op. What they're basically asking for is Original Post to give up his spot. While I hope Original Post lives a long and happy life, I know I'd be, at least a little, comforted in knowing that I have a spot next to my folks when I pass. The plot they are demanding is also the plot Op's mom bought for Op. Definitely NTA. I hope dad is in the middle plot so they can't even try and work the evil stepmom into an adjacent one. After my dad passed, my mom used part of the insurance money to pay for the funeral, and she paid up front for her own cremation and burial with my dad. It's something I won't have to worry about when she passes as an only child. She cared enough about me to make sure I didn't have to go through the whole process that she went through with my dad. Although I like your comment, those former husbands very well might still be alive or have also come to the clear realization that they obviously don't want to spend another day with this woman, and certainly not be buried next to her. Am I the butthole for insisting that my toxic stepmother's previous husbands be buried with her? They aren't dead yet. Pharaoh style, might as well throw the step-siblings in too. Honestly, I think they're just trying to get out of the burial costs. NTA. These people are nothing but a bad memory to you. Let them take care of their own. And in all likelihood, another 1 or 2 in the 9 years since Op's father died. But don't you see? Then they'd have to pay for a burial plot when Original Post already has one. Yeah, what the hell? Good point. And to add on to your comment, his mom bought these for them, not for someone who was horrible to their child after losing loved ones. This was exactly what I was going to say too. NTA, Op. Adding to the top comment because this is crucial, They're absolutely asking because the lot involved are already definitely paid for. Funerals are expensive, but a lot involved for a new gravesite basically double the cost of a funeral. That original post already has one that's, probably definitely, paid for is a huge expense that the stepkids won't have to cover if she caves. Op. NTA. This was my thought exactly. What a bunch of grifters. Not the butthole. This comment right here. Someone please give this person an award. Done. Shouldn't it be illegal for her to kick a 15-year-old out? We don't have the full story, so hopefully original post willingly went to a better situation after they were kicked out. Exactly. What monster kicks out a 15-year-old orphan? I doubt your dad would want to be buried with her if he knew what she did to you. Also, it's kind of weird that your step-siblings want to bury your stepmom with your mother. In fact, you would bury a woman with the deceased wife of her late husband. NTA. Please don't let your step-siblings take advantage of you. What this person said. NTA. NTA, that's your plot. They have no right to demand it and should have no expectation you would give it to a woman who kicked you out as a 15-year-old orphan. My guess is they just don't want to buy their mother a plot. Yeah, leeching runs in the family apparently. Not the butthole. I said this exact thing before I read your post. Lol. Exactly. NTA. You were not only an orphan but kicked out at 15 when your dad died and now they want their mom buried with him? Nope. They want the free plot. Don't do it. Yeah, who in their right mind would take the side of these siblings? The whole situation is preposterous. Like, why would the siblings being angry at original post even mean to op? They bullied original post as a child, so they obviously have a mediocre relationship to begin with. The situation should go like this: siblings, we want our dead mother buried next to your father and his first wife. Op. Lol. The end. Also, who makes a burial plot for their kid? Our kid isn't going to have his own family, I can tell. Let's bury him with us. My extended family totally did this, buying plots for their kids. There's almost always one confirmed bachelor/spinster in every generation on my mom's side anyhow that doesn't marry and doesn't have kids, or has been lubka. In my case, I happen to be the spinster with no kids and with an unofficial partner with no plans to marry. There's a very strong possibility I'll be buried with my parents, and I'm not even sure my partner would want to be buried with me. If my parents asked me if I wanted a plot, I'd shrug and say sure. Hey, fair enough. Also, who makes a burial plot for their kid? Our kid isn't going to have his own family, I can tell. Let's bury him with us. What an odd thing to critique. My grandparents have graves for them and their children at a graveyard about 30 minutes away. It was kind of a thing at some point, I imagine, considering the number of plots I see all grouped together with the same last name. Not uncommon at all. And if the cemetery allows you to, by adding cremated relatives, you can increase the occupancy, so to speak. Yeah, who in their right mind would take the side of these siblings? The whole situation is preposterous. I'm not sure why you are assuming they told people the full truth about the burial plot. Also, who makes a burial plot for their kid? Our kid isn't going to have his own family, I can tell. Let's bury him with us. It makes sense to buy an extra one by you when you have a kid. Not every kid survives to adulthood, and people can pass away before being financially settled enough to afford one. If original post had died as an adult with a young family, burying him there instead of using life insurance funds would have made financial sense. My friend's mom purchased ones for herself, my friend's dad, my friend, and his brother when his dad passed away about 15 years ago. The brothers were teenagers then. A few years ago, my friend's niece passed away in a car wreck and she was buried in the spot that had been meant for her father because they didn't want her to be alone. This is almost exactly Cinderella. I had that thought while reading. A little off topic here, but does anybody else find Op's mother's decision to buy a 3-person plot a bit strange? Plot for 2 people is very common, but 3? At some point, original post will have a partner and possibly kids. She can't be buried next to them only because her late mother decided it for her when she was a very young child. Honestly, it wouldn't bother me at all, nor would I care, but it just feels weird. Oh, And obviously not the butthole at all. The woman was evil and deprived her stepchild of food as punishment. Anybody who uses food as a means of punishment for kids should burn in hell. P.S. By the way, did her children consider cremation? They can bury her ass in between her first 2 ex-husbands. NTA. That is a family plot allocated prior to their marriage. Had he any intention of being buried with her, your dad would have taken the means to do so. Ignore them, block them, whatever. You have done nothing wrong. It's not her resting place. NTA. Your mom purchased the plot specifically for the 3 of you. You don't owe your stepmom anything. My aunt tragically died back in the 1990s. My grandfather bought either 5 or 6 plots at the time way before she died. I'd have to be looking at the grave itself to make sure. It will be now her, both grandparents, and my mom and dad. If my parents split up, I would never consider putting my stepmother in with my dad. It's not what was intended. My grandparents have owned 8 to 9 plots since their first son died as a toddler. They have it written in their will which plots belong to who. They are to be buried with one on each side of said son. That's so sad and so sweet all in one, heart. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.